Feel Good Friday right here on Morning Cafe at TV47. My name is Freddie Ndimuli, but for now, let's take a look at the state of the nation. A big discussion around Ruto and Raila on all the dailies this morning. If you look at all our dailies, gentlemen, you'll see it's just Ruto, Raila, Ruto, Raila, Ruto, Raila, 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 Ruto. I think it's only Business Daily that doesn't have the two names. It's because they're talking about banks and hard times ahead. I'm sure they may have found an angle of how to link the two men to the state of the nation. Anyway, allow me to introduce my panelists this morning. On my immediate right, Kamau Wambio, Chairperson, Kiambu Youth Caucus. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Hans Rop, political analyst, also joins us this morning. Karibu sana, Hans. And Josephat Kamanya, political analyst, is also with us. Karibuni sana, gentlemen. What we do here at Morning Cafe every morning is that we look at papers across the region, East Africa. So we do the Kenyan dailies, and we take a look at what's headlining in Uganda and Tanzania, and we get to sample at least two papers from these two countries, each of these two countries. And you see the kind of headlines they have on the front pages. They talk about matters, social security, health, infrastructure, matters, progress. But when you come back to Kenya, it is Ruto, Raila, Ruto, Raila, Ruto, Raila all the way. You would think that we have an election this year, yet it is Tanzania that has, I think, the earliest election, then followed by Uganda. So this obsession, 2 years after elections, is back.
Yes.
All the dailies, Ruto, Raila. What do you make of that, Kamau?
To me, is Ruto, after what happened, after the unprecedented Gen Z saga of what happened in the country like 2 months ago, this guy, he never saw what was coming. And now he had to, he's a political master. He had to launch Raila. In the midst of other projects, this was his other project. And now, it was so timely that Raila is bidding for an AU seat. Now, immediately after launching a campaign, what are you supposed to do? To go to the areas you're supposed to be campaigning for. Now, immediately after launching Raila from State House, this guy went straight to Nyanza. Instead of going to West Africa, Morocco, these are the regions, this guy went to tell these people. I even heard him say, so, mimi na Gwambo tumetoka mbali. So tumeona, the funny, whatever he speaks. So this guy is back on top of vehicles, on rooftops, launching fake projects that are not there, and promising of things that he should be doing. I mean, you're the president.
Yet he's still receiving a lot of applause while doing this, meaning that probably that is what Kenyans need. These papers are simply
mobilization.
These papers are simply responding to what Kenyans want. And many people wonder, fine, you've mentioned the fact that the Gen Z protests changed a lot. But they also introduced some very serious conversations that as a country, we should be focusing on. Matters economy, matters infrastructure, health, education, things that really bedevil this country. But we're not seeing that on the front pages. There is a teacher strike currently. It is not on the front pages as the big headline. It is Ruto, Raila on all the dailies.
Exactly what we were trying to bring to effect. False promises, lies. Now this guy is back to the promises. Instead of addressing the real issues, he's even there saying, I'll do. But he's not talking about the JSS employment of the JSS teachers. He's not talking about the education university funding model. He's not talking about the stalled projects that have already been exposed. He is saying about what will happen. He is saying about what he has done. He is saying me. You see, it does not make any absolute sense.
But Hans, it is Kenyans who are applauding when these people deviate from the main issues we discuss and just focus on the politics of the day. If you look at the dailies, yes, mention of Ruto and Raila about 2027 race, about who's going to inherit the Nyanza backyard or the voting bloc. Yet there are so many issues that should be on our front pages, as you have highlighted, Kamau. Issues to do with university funding model, education, teacher strike, so many other things, the economy. How come these are the most interesting things to Kenya, Ruto, Raila, and the politics, not the other discussions that we should be having? If you look at Uganda, they're talking about HIV, yet they have an election next year.
Fred, one thing I'll say is democracy that is in Kenya today allows anybody to speak anything. And there'll always be something maybe to critique about somebody, and probably more in government. If and there is a blackmail in Kenya to imagine that every development is being run politically, and therefore any person will want to solve everything politically. That's why if you find any problem that could arise in the village, even if there is maybe a child in need, maybe there's a child who have done so well in primary schools and is go to high school or university, when anybody thinks of that baby being assisted, they think of a politician. They never imagine that there is a CEO somewhere, there is a super business person somewhere who can be of an help to a community and help someone else. We've tend to politicize everything that needs to be changed in this country. And therefore you realize that even politicians will always want to scheme and give a political solution all along. And I want to believe going forward that even as Kenyans, we'll be able to differentiate. And therefore, you see, as the president also goes to launch other projects, he receives applauses. However, for what is happening currently for this case is, if you see the projects that are being relaunched, is that there were projects that were launched before, and then because of some, also the same politics, that if you're not in line with my politics or how I want it to be done, we ensure that that project installed, we don't give it funding. You get it? So when it does enough funding, it means it won't commence. Therefore, what does when a new government comes in, what do? They go and find another funding, or try and pursue the communication of funding that had been there before to see if they can renew and make sure the project goes on. And every other day, because there must be a political mileage to pursue, then when there's a new contractor coming in, there's a new funding model coming in, they now go and launch the project and hopefully let the project go through. So, and we've seen most of that happening because there is a regime that was there, and now we are having a new regime within a certain small time, and therefore many projects will end up being relaunched, and even many will happen. Let's give an example today. If Kimware Ranaror Dams comes in to be a place, we've been told that it happened because of some maybe interest of politics. If today there is an agreement between the fundings that are going to do that project, it means it will be relaunched afresh again. Mm-hmm. Because why do we relaunch? You have to give hope to a resident who is going to benefit from this kind of a project. Why? Because the same project that is being launched or it begins to work, it cannot end to be in its functionable form, maybe within a year or so. It can take 2-3 years working on the project. Okay. So you have to relaunch, have a meeting with the residents and give them hope. Also, what the president is trying to do is to go to Kisumu, tell Kisumu residents that we are now working with BAMBA, and therefore these are the kind of the projects in line. So in the long run, the meaning of this is, all of us have been to class, and many times we study many things that are caused by political instability of a country. So if you want to plan any kind of development, like you want to do things like L's, Mother's L, and the ones you've been discussing, you must ensure first that as you go ahead, there is a political stability.
I'm more concerned about the angle of the conversations. Yes, Raila and Ruto going to Nyanza is a big deal, but there must be some issues even within Nyanza itself, that could form the headline and not just Ruto, Raila and their newfound alliance and camaraderie. If you look at, for example, a paper like the New Vision in Uganda, yes, yesterday President Museveni was focusing on northern Uganda, but the issues that are coming from there are issues about land, and that is the headline. A program they have about 4 acres of land in that program. They're not just talking about Museveni, they're talking about the issues that he's going to address there. How come when it comes to Kenya, There are so many, fine, relaunch or launch, but there are projects being launched that will serve the people of Nyanza. How come those issues are not the ones getting the prominence on our dailies? Probably that's the approach we are talking about, Bwana Kamanya.
Yeah, and a very good morning to our viewers. Fred, we find ourselves at the crossroads that amidst a socio-economic revolution, political expedience seeming to take the center stage, as you say. And the proponents of the political expedience are the very, very same persons who should be addressing the socio-economic issues that we are facing. I don't understand why the unconstitutional Prime Cabinet Secretary story is not featuring at the front page, where he was held hostage in Vihiga and teachers demanded that he address them. Those are the contextual issues that we should be discussing, but not the sideshows of irrelevant political campaigns that we are seeing the president furthering in Nyanza. So I do agree with you that we have lost as a country. We seem to have been duped into a very early campaign season for 2027, and we are overlooking.
Yet it's only months we were discussing real issues when the Gen Z protests came here. We were discussing real issues that affect this country. Where did we lose it?
Well, you see, I don't want to say the state is under capture, but I want to honestly say that we have people, and I find it very difficult to reconcile the defense on the relaunching and launching of projects. You know, that for me does not hold any water for now. We need to go back and make sure that we do not lose the socio-economic conversation. We cannot leave this conversation to politicians. And there is a hoodwinking, and I think I said this earlier, that we are now being drifted to having a political conversation, and exactly given the headlines today, and yet what we need to be dealing with are the socio-economic issues. Yes. We have the issue of teachers on strike, kids are at home. You know, just the other day we had the issue of the Kware killings, and then all of a sudden people disappeared. And the police did not even publish the photos of the other 12 because they said about 13 people disappeared. So how do you even support the police if you wanted to report? I've seen Fred and Kamau and whoever in company of. But these are the side. This is how politics work. At one point, when the government realizes that they are losing the conversation and they are losing the people, they need to excite the emotions of the country.
But what does it say about the people themselves, Kamau? You're a Gen Z. Your generation brought about some very serious conversations 2 months ago. Now watching politicians take over that, and now we've totally forgotten even the kind of conversations you are talking about. There is a very high possibility that we could see the reintroduction of some very serious aspects of the finance bill. No one is talking about it on the front pages. Now, politicians have managed to make sure their names are what feature on each and every daily in Kenya today.
You see, Fred, it's very saddening to hear Rob say, my friend here say that, or try to justify on what the government is trying to do on relaunching projects. And he said that if the president would have not gone into bed with Raila, he would have not gone to Kisumu to launch those projects, which means that the people, some people from some parts of this country are not entitled to projects because they are not in bed with the government. And where else, the government is for the people, and the people are for the whole citizens. You should work for the people of Kenya. Now, the project, the government, when they are trying to bring in the aspect of politics, instead of focusing on the socio-economic aspect, it's saddening. Right now, Fred, kids are at home. No money for school fees. No nothing. Now, I also heard the other day that kids should open up to school with shift, third term. What is shift? Begin with, how are these kids going to be incorporated with this this health insurance fund? And even the teachers themselves, they have not been paid. Whereas we are seeing the government roll out a tender of 14 billion to print out new notes, but they cannot provide, I think, 13 billion to employ new JSS teachers, that we don't have any money right now. But they are able to roll out.
Does that say something about the sustainability of the conversation that was started by the younger generation.
problem-
The fact that you started a conversation, it is no longer featuring anywhere. That's about the people. It's not about the politicians. The politicians are doing their thing, and they have been very successful. But what does it say about you who wanted the other conversation to be there, but it's not there?
I said here again that we are not prioritized by the government. We don't follow under any category for these people. These are monkeys that, these are like the same monkeys in the, they're just in different forests, but they still come together. They don't prioritize Kenya.
There's something that I'm not getting right, because headlines simply react to what the public wants to read about or to see. This is a public psyche. They simply mirror what people are talking about. It means that people are more interested in Ruto and Raila than the issues that bedevil this country. That is the question I'm asking. Have you, the younger generation, already lost interest in what you're pushing for? That you're more interested in reading about Ruto or Raila? Because if at all the masses are interested in this conversation, then the dailies will simply react to that.
The masses are not interested in this conversation. It's just that they are the things that are happening right now. We, the young people, we, the Gen Zs, the majority people in this country, they are not for what is happening outside with these people. We want the real issues to be addressed. And we try to say that each and every now and then. But this guy just do a house key. You get? Now, what are we left to do? Because now we tried to do something. We ended up having people dead. We ended up having a mixed up reaction. So what are we doing right now? Right now, we take a back step and watch out what will happen. But
at least you've admitted that now you've taken a back step.
But we are preparing for this. The enemy of your enemy is your friend. So we join us with our enemies, and now we start taking the vote and now planning for that. Whatever he is planning for, we'll plan for that also.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's agree then that the conversations are the ones on the dailies and we forget about the others. So let's talk about Raila's AU bid. And Bwana Hans, yes, he may have been launched officially, or his bid was launched officially at State House Nairobi. But if you've listened to so many people, they're now questioning his prospects. And there's a lot of doubt on whether or not Raila Odinga, or there are some doubts on whether or not Raila Odinga can actually be successful in getting that seat, given the fact that there's a very strong candidate from Djibouti as well, who also enjoys some support from the Francophone countries because he can speak a bit of French. That is what Taifa Leo is alluding to. They're talking about risasi ya mwisho for Raila Odinga. The fact that if he misses out on this one, it's probably the last stab he may have at any elective position. Do you believe that he stands a good chance?
Fred, before I come back to AU, let me just mention something a little. We are discussing about the headlines that we have today in our country. And I'm still asking myself, is this what the people really want to hear, or what the media needs to sell? The media having these headlines to make sales, or this what the mwananchi really needs to hear? The issues you've mentioned, we rarely see them being placed as the headlines. Issues mothers' health, the others. We want to encourage the media to really also, we also feel as much as the country is too political, at times the media also gets too political, that their headlines has to be aligned to some politics. You'll see a big headline of Ruto, then a small headline there. We can never see another day having a big health of mother's health, then a Ruto was in Kisumu, sidebar. So as much as we celebrate what the media is doing, we also become skeptical on how they do their stuff, because what is it that you give us as the headlines? What is it that you give the country as the headlines? You get it? It's also what you, and also what you put it on the headline is what will make me as a politician, for instance, to want to do, because I know if I do this, I'll get to the headline. If I do this, I'll get to a side corner. So somebody might not ever see it. Secondly, is why has the agencies taken aback? We've been here before and we've discussed, and I've had a chance to say that the kind of demonstration we had was not organic. Maybe with time I'll be justified, because this thing is, you see
the conversations resonated with you.
You see people in Kisumu are saying what? If you want to do any demonstration, you go and do the GNC demonstration in Nairobi. Don't do it in Kisumu. Does it mean there are no Gen Zs in Kisumu? There was some politics inside it, and we've said it before. Also, you see some kind of formation coming in, and it seems to working to solve it. We don't have people who are complaining on social media. We cannot see anything. They have taken aback a little bit. For AU bid, it is a tight race. We must be honest with it. It's a very, very tight race. But let us be patient and see how things goes, because we've seen also whatever we are seeing the analysts having it on their social media, wherever, on the French-speaking countries. And you also see that some of the countries have been expelled from maybe voting and so on. And it also gives me worry as a person that one French-speaking president from East Africa didn't attend Raila's launch. So it's somehow, I feel, it's, I really, as much as we would want to have that as Kenyans, it's scary that why we really need to do extra. The president and his team and Raila team need to go extra and see what to do. Whether Raila ni risasi ya mwisho, we've seen it before. It has never been risasi ya mwisho. I think Raila has a way of reserving himself. And we were here before, and I told you.
Yet if he fails to get this AUC seat, it will have a lot of impact on the politics.
He will run in 2027. And that's why I've told you before that Raila is too sharp. He made sure that he remains to be the leader of ODM. That's why he sent out deputy party leaders and chairperson. By the time another deputy leader rises to a levels of being felt like a leader, you've been seeing rallies going around, and Simbarati is trying to say, I'm the deputy party leader of ODM. It's not really catching the crowd. You see, Wanga is trying to be, at some point she says that I'm the chairman of ODM, whereas she's a lady. She needs to say that I'm the chairperson. So by the time these new leaders who are coming in really become strong in the party, Raila will still have a chance to run and be popular.
Because looking at that launch for the AUC bid at State House, Nairobi, it looked like almost like a celebratory acceptance event. Yet there's still a long way to go. The fact that President Ruto is in Nyanza right now, he's setting himself up ready to inherit Raila Odinga's backyard and the voting bloc. But we still don't have it in the bag. Raila Odinga doesn't have it in the bag. If at all he loses come February next year, Kenyan politics will change again.
Well, Fred, and before that, the Gen Z revolution is still on because it was a call for good governance and social justice. So that lives on. Whether people go to the streets, whether it will be through the vote in 2027, whether it will be through various forms of agitation over time, it lives on. Because every Kenyan, even the ones in Nyanza, even those who are mobilized to attend these rallies today, tomorrow, through Sunday, they also want good governance. Their children are at home. Every parent who was in that rally yesterday, their child was at home. You know, I'm sure there were no teachers there because they would not have been allowed to cause a scene. So the call for good governance is still there. And secondly, who is financing all these homecoming rallies? That's another question we need to ask ourselves. Because a few months ago, the president was very huge on austerity measures. Has that conversation died? You know, did he just say it for the sake? And what is so necessary about a homecoming? An appointment to a cabinet secretary means you move into office and start working for Kenyans. Because remember, those who were removed were because of incompetency, inefficiency, and lack of trust, public trust. So if now you start off by holding a rally in your backyard and spending millions of shillings, what message are you communicating? And who is the chief guest? The president himself, who was talking about austerity. So there's a lot of double standard here. And I keep saying the buck stands with the president. It is upon him. Anyway, the revolution lives on. It is not a question of if the Right Honorable Raila loses in February. It is a question of when the Right Honorable Raila will lose in February, what will happen? And I say this because I've been trying to analyze currently as of now, because we still have a few months to go, the countries that are likely to vote and how they are likely to vote. And I don't see even him garnering 10 votes. 10 votes, he will not yield. We are not even sure of the Kenyan vote, but that's another story. The reason I say this is because we have Djibouti, we have Algeria, and now we have Kenya. And I'm looking at the African countries arrangement. In East Africa, we must accept that the international standing of our country as Kenya has been downgraded by the recent behavior of our president. If this was happening in his early months of our appointment into office, we were ranking highly. He was all over the African countries and the world. And, there was a good public image internationally for Kenya. Right now, we are not very well rated. The Sahel region, the northern, southern region, they are likely not going to vote for Kenya. For two reasons. Remember them, they are not pro-Western, which we are. Largely, Kenya has exposed its underbelly. We've gone running into the White House. And almost every other African leader was not very happy with that move. The same African Union had to stop our current president from addressing the world as if he was the African Union chair. So what does that say? Power dynamics are playing out in a way that is not favorable for us as Kenyans. Now, look at the candidates. The Right Honorable Odinga, his age is not a plus. He's been very vocal in the second liberation of the, let's say, African countries, starting with Kenya. But currently, Kenyans rate him as a betrayer of the current third liberation. Currently, we have a president who is going around saying, I'm going to support the bid for the Right Honorable Odinga. Yet, 2 years back, the same president and his deputy, they said that the Right Honorable Odinga is not good for Kenya, is not fit to lead this country. How can he be fit for Africa? They called him all names, politics of deceit, mganga, mchawi, and everything, every party he gets into collapses. We've seen UDA collapsing already. So what confidence does that exude that 2 years ago you told us your opponent is not fit to lead your own country, but now you want us to trust him with over 50 countries of Africa? That does not add up very well.
Okay.
Finally, I'm looking at the regional alignment. In the northern eastern part of our continent, we have Djibouti, we have Ethiopia, we have Eritrea, we have Ethiopia. I said Ethiopia already. There is no way they are not going to vote for the Djibouti person. If you go down, South Africa is not going to vote for Raila Odinga. They will not. And
why not?
Look at the political indifference we have. And that's why the entire SADC community, we had no one from Namibia, Mozambique, Zimbabwe, Zambia, South Africa, Lesotho. No one was here. Thirdly, and this is very sad, I want you to look at the photo of the persons who were backing up the bid for the Right Honorable Odinga. Whom did we have? Salva Kiir, President of Sudan.
Immediate neighbors.
The next person, the Kaguta, Museveni.
Okay.
Look at their age. Look at what they represent. Is that the current democracy we want for Africa?
Okay, hold that thought there. Let's take a break. We come back to continue this conversation. You're watching Morning Cafe. We're taking a look at Raila's AUC bid.